when you got in the seat, it was a whole different world. That little car, you're going really fast.
In the dirt car, we're tuning and setting up a lot more. And on the snowmobiling, it's a lot of just sheer endurance and a lot of muscular strength goes into all of it.
Tonie Brockhaus of Glennon, Minnesota was born into racing. He has raced at tracks all over the country in several different classes, from motorcycles on dirt to asphalt road courses. He now maintains several Legend cars in the area and races the Dirt 1 Legend in the Masters class.
Well, I've been racing all my life. I mean, my dad was racing when I was pretty much born, and it's gone on from there. Spent quite a few years racing motorcycles, got to race all over the country. From there, we finally decided that having a little extra iron around your body might be a benefit. My first stock car I got into was 1982. I had just moved into the area and started getting to know some people around. The guy down at the body shop had this race car, and they decided that they wanted to go racing, and I guess I was just dumb enough to get in the seat. Actually, my brother got involved first. We were running ASA Super Lates. He got into the Legends, I believe it was in 2004. Ended up, I think it was around 05, 06 that he bought the dealership in Minnesota, and he got another track going and needed parts up at the track that we were racing at. So originally it was just I brought parts to the racetrack for him, so that for the other racers. I think it was 2006 for my birthday. He brought a spare car up, and he says, "Here, just go drive this thing." And at first, I was like most people, didn't really think they were much, but when you got in the seat, it was a whole different world. That little car, you're going really fast. What got me going Legend racing was not so much the car as the people. It was a much friendlier environment. When we were late model racing, it was you and your crew against everybody else, and when we're racing Legends, it's more about your fellow racer. A Legend car is more your basic car. And the neat thing about a Legend car is that there's no cheating. I mean, it's just every part on a car is a spec part, and you do a few things to make the car different for each driver, and you go out and you have fun. I mean, that's what it's all about, is having fun. It kind of falls under the fact that if you were at war and had to talk to the guy for 10 minutes before shooting him, we're all good friends, and being good friends, it's a lot harder to hit the person. You try to keep it clean, and well, I mean, we're all out here to have a good time. I would have to say one of my best memories was in Sauk Center, Minnesota. It wasn't even on the racetrack. During a heat race, two guys got together, and when they got the cars back to the pits, the drivers and crews were not even working on their own cars. They were working on their fellow competitors' cars to make sure that they got back out.
Victory donuts from Tonie Brockhaus.
Of course. You made her. There you go. You stand stand next to him.
Firemen will follow
There
with
you
the
go.
hot laps.
What I enjoy most is my fellow competitors. And they vary from young children all the way up to they're into their 60s. In fact, before I broke my back, we were racing over at Cedar Lake, Wisconsin, and the guy pitted right next to me was Nelson Stewart, 70 years old. In fact, it was 1 week to his 70th birthday, which is Tony Stewart's father. I don't know how many people were watching the race on Sunday. I forget exactly what night it was. A while back, the Cup race, when they talked about Nelson getting rehired. Well, he was fired the Wednesday night out at Fargo because he was hanging out in my trailer instead of over at Tony's. Got hit by another car and went about 25 feet in the air, and when it landed, I broke my back. Pretty much spent 14 months in bed over that one.
The Racing Life is sponsored by Dakota Cat, Norman County Raceway, Superior Builders, Valley Alignment and Repair, Northland and Harry's Towing.
One of the nights we followed Tony at Buffalo River Race Park, Shane Lasky, former Wayzata Mod 4 champion, drove the 6J Legend car, one of the cars that Tony maintains and brings to the track for drivers to rent. Our cameras were on board to capture the action.
I don't know if you can see the car in the background here, but this is a new car that we're going to be introducing for this year. They call it an L mod. Same basic principle as Legend car, but it's more of a sprint car. This comes from the same outfit that we get all our Legend stuff from. Ray Everham is actually the person that has designed this car. The motor is the same basic motor that we run in a Legend car, a little more horsepower. But they wanted to introduce something that was more along the lines of getting the younger generation that's up and coming into sprint cars, and you also have the people that just can't afford to be in a sprint car anymore. This is right up their alley. It's time to go back racing. September 28th, 2008, got hit by another car and went about 25 feet in the air, and when it landed, I broke my back. Pretty much spent 14 months in bed over that one. Actually, at that point, I decided to give it up. I was going to be done at that point. Now a very good friend of mine, Joel Peterson, bought a car, went over, helped him put the thing together, and when he left that night, he left it behind my trailer. Gave him a call. He said, put it in your trailer. And Sunday he told me he didn't have a chance to come race the car. He says, why don't you drive it? Kind of hard to say no to a brand new car. The problems will be for the rest of my life. There's back trouble. How you let it affect your life, you shouldn't. Right. You just go on. I'm probably a lot more cautious on the racetrack than I used to be. This is actually me just before I got to the ground. And if you look in the picture back here, that's actually the carburetors off from the car. I've got a fender up here, and the grill to my car was up here. And this guy here was actually behind me when the accident happened. And he could see daylight between my car and the roof of these motorhomes up in the corner. They say it was about 20, 25 feet in the air. Just last fall, we had our Dirt Nationals were in Elko, Minnesota. And fellow racers that have raced at Buffalo River Speedway ended up taking over 60% of the trophies home from the Nationals. And they trophy 5 places back in all 4 of our divisions. If you have go-karting experience or down south it's bandoleros, at 12 years old you can get into a Legend car. We have the blessing from Kevin for that. There are other tracks that we do have issues, but here at home we have no problem with that. With no experience you can be in at 14 and don't ever worry about being too old.
When I was younger, I really didn't care for it. My dad really wanted me to get into go-karts, and I tried it. I didn't like it at first, but then I started getting into it, and I liked it. But when I got into the Legends, I just loved it. I mean, I want to race right now if I could.
The girls race as hard as the guys, too.
Yeah.
And so do you feel like you have to prove that even more being a girl?
Yeah. I feel like pressured, like they're always like watching.
I was nervous. It wasn't that hard to get used to. It's just like a big go-kart.
We're in different classes. He's young lion, I'm a master. Master is 40 years and older. But we actually race on the track at the same time together.
What's it like racing against your dad?
Bitter.
Easy.
When you're feeling sore, they kind of drive you into keeping going and making that next lap and making the next race. And it's just the team backing. It's everyone helping each other out and keeping each other going.
The Racing Life is sponsored by Performance Auto, Randall's Excavating, Nugget Vending, KRJB and KRJM, Elite Therapeutic Massage and Specialty Makeup. The Racing Life's Fan Pictures of the Week is sponsored by Superior Builders, specializing in post-frame building.
Hi, my name is Josh Richards, driver of the Kentucky Fuel Corporation Seabird Bat Branch's Brockhouse car here. And my question for you kids is, how do you prepare for a race?
Hi, I'm Landon Backer. How I prepare for a race is I get my go-kart ready, I get all dressed, and then I pretty much go wait until I start racing.
On a regular night at the races, we would have followed Adam Gajeski of Stephen, Minnesota in his Midwest Modified. But during the winter, snowcross is a way for Adam to get his racing fix.
I've been involved in racing basically my whole life. It all started out when I was 4 years old. I had a little kitty cat, and my dad threw me on there at 4 and bundled me up with a snowsuit and a helmet and set me out on the track and said, let's go racing. And then from there, kind of went into a little bit of on-the-farm work and kind of got away from racing a little bit and rode around on motorcycles and four-wheelers until I was about 15. Then I got into a stock car, a pure stock. And I guess from there, it kind of rolled into a Midwest Modified, and then I did some snowmobile racing that I'm doing right now, and that's where I'm at. Before, it used to be kind of the winter lull where we'd be kind of just hanging out and thinking about racing in the summer all winter long. And now that I got into snowmobile racing, it's kind of that little adrenaline fix. Racing on dirt is it's a lot of fun, so is this, but the snowmobile racing is a lot more physically demanding. I'm at the point in my snowmobiling career where it's not all about the setup like it is in the dirt car. In the dirt car, we're tuning and setting up a lot more, and on the snowmobiling, it's a lot of just sheer endurance and a lot of muscular strength goes into all of it. The day after the race, I usually lay in bed and say, why do I keep on doing this? And then I get, seems like every week I get back to the track and I get out on the track and I say, this is why I'm doing it. It's just too much fun not to. Being 24 years old, I know if I was a little bit younger when I was in a little better shape, I don't have the biggest workout regimen, and but I do try staying a little bit of shape. I do feel like I'm getting older, being 24 years old. I know there's a lot of guys that are a lot older than me out there that would be laughing at me saying that, but I do feel the body aging a little bit, feel a little bit more sore in the mornings than I used to when I was younger. So I do feel the age being a factor in everything. The weather, it does affect you a little bit. It's cold out there. A lot of times we'll have some frostbite issues to deal with, but usually we're able to bundle up and throw more jackets and more layers to keep warm, and just try to stay warm any way possible. When you're out there, really none of that really crosses your mind. It's all about the guys behind you and the guys in front of you, or maybe even the guys alongside you trying to beat them to the checkered flag. But kind of after the races, you kind of feel a little bit cold in your cheeks and your fingers, and then it starts to set in. But when you're out on the track, it's just a pure adrenaline rush. We've got 5 sleds on our team right now. One of them is currently out. That would be my cousin, and she races the women's class, and she's pregnant right now, so she gets to take the winter off. I tell you what, she'd love to be out there, but we said, no, you're pregnant, you can't race. The teammates and the team that's kind of the best part about it. You're with all your friends and helping you fix your sleds and get it going for the next week. And you know, when you're feeling sore, they kind of drive you into keeping going and making that next lap and making the next race. And it's just the team backing. It's everyone helping each other out and keeping each other going. There's a lot of time a guy has to sacrifice to be able to keep the program going, and there's just a lot of time involved in everything.
The Racing Life is sponsored by Bad Cats Design and Print Solutions, Dakota Engine Builders, Red River Kart Club, Fargo Rental, Midwest Motorsports Weekly, RentalRaceCar.com. Here is the Racing Life's question of the week.
My name is Skylar. I won the house, got Lampton, got the Scooby Doo idea.
I'm Scott Lampton, driver of the 7S Hornet car, and I'm here to answer the question from Skylar, how did I get my name Scooby Doo? That's a good question. I really have no clue how I got it. I guess I've been called since birth, and all the little kids couldn't say my name, so they always said Scooby. So that's how I got that name. Thanks for the question.
Adam describes the handling and the setup of the sled, also how weather is a big factor in how the snowmobile performs.
It was rough, but it's snowcross. They're always rough. It's a lot of fun. This is a nice short track, so there's a lot of close racing, a lot of good battles close up, and it was a fun track. It seems like the man-made snow holds up a little bit. There's more ice into it, and it makes for a little bit more consistent track. These holes out in the track with these high horsepower machines, they'll just dig those holes out, and it seems like when you go into them, there's no bottom until you smash into the next face. It kind of all comes to the setup for the corner. Before the jump or before the corner even happens, you kind of got to know where you want to set up and where you want to go. You got to be thinking a corner ahead of where you're at. And then once you make that setup and you make that corner, holding that throttle wide open, going up the face of the jump, half scared to death, wondering what's going to happen. And then once you're in the air, it's kind of just that adrenaline rush. You're just free, just floating in the air, and that's just a great experience to be up there. And then the next part is landing. But when you're up in the air, you're not holding the throttle all the way. It's kind of position of where you want to be. It all depends on your body movement, your throttle and brake to level the sled and maneuver the sled where you want it in the air. A lot of the adjustments that we make to our sleds are shock adjustments, valving, what kind of compression and rebound rates we're running. There's a lot of clutching that we do, and big thing is with these temperature changes, some days it'll be 30 degrees out, and other days it'll be 20 below zero when we're racing out there. So we got to stay on top of our jets on our carburetors. We're constantly changing and tuning on the engines to keep them running at their highest horsepower possible. No, it's good. They're quite a machine. It's all, it's pushing the limits of both man and machine. They're both getting pushed to their breaking points. And sometimes we find both breaking points in the machine and in the man. And that's why we got the ambulance crew on hand. That factor's always out there, but I kind of put that back in the back of my head and try not to really think or stress about that, and just go out there and give it 100%. The equipment that we wear are knee pads, shin pads. We've got rib and back and chest protectors, and then neck braces, and of course a good old helmet. My most memorable race in snowcross was probably my first race in snowcross. You can watch it all you want on TV, and you can go to the track and watch it, and until you're actually out there and you experience the track and you get to feel it firsthand, you can't really describe it. The best way to get involved in the sport is just come on out to the track. Everyone there is really friendly. Come to your local track. There's usually practice sessions at the end, and if you've got a snowmobile, bring it out. There's classes for everyone, and if not, there's usually plenty of people to talk to, and they'll let you take your sled out for a couple laps and just test it out and see what you think. My favorite tracks, I would say, for dirt car racing would be Grand Forks. It's just kind of an action-packed little bull ring, and there's just a lot of excitement and a lot of hype. It's kind of the big show in the area, and you just get a huge fan base and huge crowds. As far as snowmobile racing, we kind of go all over the place. There's just great tracks everywhere I go. It's a little harder for me to pick my favorite track. They're all just a blast. I've always kind of thought of myself as being the good guy out there, trying to keep a clean race and not getting too over aggressive on the dirt side. And kind of the opposite shows in the snowmobiling end of it, where I like to get in there and maybe bump and rub a little bit and get a little bit aggressive. There's a lot of time a guy has to sacrifice to be able to keep the program going, and there's just a lot of time involved in everything, but it's still time well spent, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
To grind tires and put gas in, and all the little things take time, and when you're only one guy, you can only do so much.
Your worst enemies on the racetrack, but your best of friends, afterwards. And if you break your car and you need a part, they're there to help you.
You don't eat peanuts in my pit.
I love that one, because there's a lot of people who say that you don't eat peanuts.
Nope, you do not eat peanuts in my pit.